Welcome to the Scottish Watches podcast, an action-packed, exciting episode for you because there's been lots of things happening. We thought it'd be quite quiet. It isn't. We say this nearly every single week. There is so much happening in the watch industry. It could be new events, it could be existing events, it could be the culmination of years and years of projects coming together. And there are a few of them we're going to talk about today. The first thing we're going to do is to tell you to check the show notes, play along at home, click the link in your podcast player or the link that is in the description on the YouTube video. There's a brand called Hautlence. We've talked about them many times before. We've actually got an episode recorded with them that will be out sooner rather than later.
Indeed. Well, this is the Hautlence Sphere Series 3. Now, something that I did not actually know is Hautlence is actually an anagram of Neuchâtel. Who'd have thunk it? They were brought back to life back in 2022, and if you're wondering why we talk about them and if there's any familiarities about the brand, well, it's because it falls under the same family ownership group that also has Moser, and the whole team at Moser are broadly involved to some extent with Hautlence, although there's a few people who are very specifically aimed at just working in Hautlence. But yes, we have a new Sphere Series 3.
But what is the Sphere then? Explain a little bit for people that maybe haven't seen the prior editions. What makes this one so special?
Let me get back to that because this is a diatribe that I'm about to go off on one about anyway. But what they've done is probably address the one, we'll not call it a complaint, but the one thing that some people comment on about Hautlence, which is of course the size of them, because they are not dainty little wrist implements, and they have got this new Series 3 in a new, smaller, more wearable case size. Now, one thing that they've always been masters of is unconventional time displays. Both the Sphere Series 1 and 2 were iterations, with the third being the kind of updated one, where you've got a multi-axis spherical jumping hour with retrograde minutes. Now that is quite a lot to get your head around. So what you essentially have is towards the left of the, dial display, which is more like a TV, but we'll get to that as well. You've got a sphere, like a planet Earth, although the flat earthers at this point will be having a little conniptions to themselves because, nothing is actually round. But yes.
Well, it's got flat sides. It's more like one of those dice that you would use from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Not that you've ever played that, Ricky, being a geek and all that. But yes, anyway, you've got this kind of spherical ball, and it's got, of course, 1 to 12 in it, being every number you need to cover every hour in, half a day. And then you double it and you get 24 hours. So yes, it kind of jumps around on various different axes and it jumps on the hour. Obviously, you will have seen many jumping hour watches out there. They're more traditionally a disc with a little window, a bit like a date window, to be honest. And on the hour, it jumps past to the next hour. This is much more multi-dimensional than that. Then, to put another little complication in there, you've got a retrograde minutes. So each of the 60 minutes, it kind of goes down a little dial and then it jumps back up to the top as well. The thing that I guess this brand is probably best known for, aside from being quite big, is TV style screen silhouettes. So you've got a watch that is very much like an old school CRT TV. It's even got a fairly chunky case and quite a big sapphire box crystal on there as well, which definitely gives you that kind of whole look and feel. But with this new case, it's a bit smaller, it's a bit sharper, it's a wee bit more wearable, I would agree. And they've had to re-engineer the movement to fit it into this tighter space. And, me and Ricky are all about engineering things to fit in tight spaces.
Matron.
The earlier sizes were 43 by 50.8 millimeters. I can think most folk will agree, not a tiny watch. But the new one, much more wearable, 37 by 45 millimeters. You've got a grade 5 titanium case. The height on it, including the box crystal, is 17.4 millimeters. It's around 12 millimeters without the box crystal. You've got satinized and polished finishing on there as well. Definitely got a good water resistance for this type of watch at 100 meters. So it's very much day-to-day wearable. And as I mentioned, the layout is on the left side, you've got this spherical jumping hour. In this iteration, it's a polished titanium shell and it's been coated in a purple treatment. You've also on the right got the retrograde minutes, and that's on a 180-degree arc as well. Of course, it is a hand wind caliber. They call it the A82.
Is that not a really shitty A-road in Scotland?
That's the one that folk keep getting killed on when they try to get to the Highlands. 72 hours of power reserve. It's fitted to a purple suede strap. There's only going to be 28 pieces of this, and it is a cool looking watch. You should tune in for a future episode, which is hopefully going to be in the next few weeks, where Hautlence themselves come on and talk all about it.
Yeah, we caught up with them at Geneva Watch Days. They are fantastic. They've been doing so many cool things for a number of years. Remember last year, the wife's favourite watch at Geneva Watch Days was their green marble soap. It looks like sort of Fight Club soap, but in green. It's a watch that they hid the tourbillon behind what looks like a vintage radio set. And then this year, at Watches and Wonders, we saw them and they had something that looked a little bit like, I mean, if you really stretch your imagination out, looked a little bit like a Transformers toy from the 80s, but it wasn't. And then they have got something really, really cool, unique, and exciting, especially for me and what I'm interested in, and it ain't Dungeons and Dragons. So tune in, as Dave says, in the next couple of weeks, and we can see what they are up to. But next, what we're going to find out about is what Waco's been up to. You've heard his name before, he's been on the show. I think it was many, many years ago. We should probably drag him back kicking and screaming, although, seeing he is a bit of a media marvel these days, that might not be quite as difficult as it appears to be because he's got his own TV show almost. In the moment, it's in the Asian areas, but it will be coming across the world, fingers crossed, and this is called Man of the Hour. Good play on words with the featured guests being currently all male and featuring timepieces. You've got all the greats in there, but Dave, do you want to run us through the roster?
Indeed, so it's a new docu-series. I think there's going to be 8 parts to it if I remember correctly, and of course it will feature Waco of Revolution fame, called, as Ricky mentioned, Man of the Hour, and it's basically about celebrating the art and humanity of watchmaking. So I'm going to assume by humanity they mean the characters and individuals as well. So if you're into your watches, which if you're listening to this would kind of give the game away, you should probably also get this added to your watch list. It's one of the few interesting, probably extremely well made pieces of, well, a videograph that you'll be able to watch all about it. Now, it comes out on Discovery in November, I believe. As to whether it's globally available immediately, I do not know, but I'm sure if you go into Discovery and do a bit of digging, you might be able to find it. Or VPN is probably your friend as well.
Or you could read the bottom of the press release where it says, Man of the Hour premieres this November on Discovery in Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Hong Kong and South Korea, with more regions to follow.
Well, there's the countries you need to use VPN for, as Ricky puts out. So neither of us have said...
That is a great advert for getting a VPN, unless you stay in the UK and you've needed a VPN since July the 25th for no real reason at all.
It wouldn't be to watch more interesting content on the internet, would it? Possibly. But anyway, if you want to know what we're talking about, don't ask us. Do a Google. It will be your friend. But yes, we get to get inside the workshops, the homes, and the heads of some of the most kind of well-known figures in independent watchmaking. You've got Rex Happy, you've got F.P. Journe, you're going to have the Chopard family, you've got Dennis from De Bethune, you've got Urban Jensen's Alex and Andrew Rosenfeld, you've got Kari Voutilainen, Grubel Forze, lots and lots, and of course Max Busser. Who could forget Max Busser? But yes, lots of interesting people who are well known within the independent watchmaking, but you might get to find out a little bit of information that you don't maybe get trotted out on the normal shows, because if anything we can do is probably dig a little bit deeper and get some interesting information out of these people. So something for watch fans on relatively mainstream television, which is, well, a rarity as we know. But anyway, we need to wait to November. You need to use VPN. Hopefully in the future it will expand itself out into other areas of the world.
Well, next up we have got the folks at Raymond Weil. They are celebrating, everyone's celebrating an anniversary, aren't they? Yeah, but they're celebrating one next year, so we get to talk about it next year. But what they're doing this year is they are bringing in some really funky lines. And when I say lines for any Scottish people, I'm talking about ranges of product lines, ranges of watches for sale. And there are a collection that is just about to hit the market. I believe it's the day the episode comes out as you're listening to this. If you're watching the YouTube video at the weekend, it is already out there. And the good thing about Raymond Weil is they are Swiss made. They are very highly put together. They've got a very low price point, and you can actually walk into a shop and try them on. That's one of the benefits. Usually the Swiss makers that we speak about at the lower price points that still make fantastic watches, Formex, etc., they're difficult to get a hold of. Here in the UK, obviously we've got James Port and Son in Glasgow, but there aren't that many places to physically try them on. Raymond Weil, you can walk in, you can try it, etc.
Indeed. Well, you actually took the words right out of my mouth. Another anniversary. It sounds like we can keep using that phrase through next year as well. So this is the Raymond Weil Toccata Heritage Classic. There's definitely a theme going on, and there's a couple of watches we're going to cover in this episode that definitely give the vibe of smaller, dressier watches are definitely making a comeback. And a lot of them are leaning on what I would say is one of the most famous out there, that being a certain Patek Philippe, being the Ellipse. This one, though, whilst having very strong leanings towards that type of style, it's not like Patek invented it, it was very much of the 1970s. They've brought out some very stylish, thin, and affordable watches, both in mechanical and quartz. The big difference between the Ellipse is that it does have lugs on this watch, albeit tight little neat lugs. The strap doesn't go straight into the back of the case as it does on the Ellipse. You've got some nice little areas of polishing on there. Size-wise, it's perfect in my opinion. 33mm wide by 38mm long, slightly ovalised case. The mechanical version is also under 7mm thick at 6.95mm. And you've got very understated but impactful sunburst dials. Some nice colourways, silver, blue, and copper. I'm glad they didn't call it salmon. Someone finally used the word copper. The silver and the blue variants are housed in stainless steel cases. The copper dial version is in a rose gold PVD coated case. $1,675 for the stainless steel models, $1,825 for the rose gold colour version. The stainless steel ones are also available on a bracelet for $100 more, so that would make it $1,795. They are mechanical. It's a Solita based movement, but quite importantly, it is a square form factor movement, which in my opinion is doing it correctly for a watch of this nature. There is also the quartz movement variants as well, slightly smaller, 31.5mm by 36mm in length and only 5.1mm thick. With this, there's a few different versions. There's a rose gold PVD coated version with a matching rose gold PVD bracelet. That one also has 6 lab-grown diamonds on the bezel. You've got a couple of steel versions, either in blue or red dials, and you've also got a gold PVD coated version with a silver dial, all of those without the diamonds. There's also a classic blue dial in stainless steel. All of them, no matter whether mechanical or quartz, a 30-meter water resistance, so you're okay washing your hands. Price points range essentially from $1,200 for the quartz on steel with a strap through to $2,625 for the rose gold PVD coated diamond inset version on a bracelet. These are absolutely fabulous looking. I really, really, really like the stainless steel mechanical versions. For that money, to be honest, you get a watch that most folk at second glance would take it for, a Patek. Not that you should care about whether people do that or don't, but it's so nicely designed, and the Patek Ellipse is such a beautiful classic watch. If you're wanting that look and feel without spending serious amounts of cash, this I think would scratch the itch very firmly, to the point where even if you get enough money for an Ellipse in the future, you might not want one.
Well, the funny thing is, Dave, I actually really like this kind of rose-coloured one. The case head on this is stunning, absolutely stunning. And we talk about the price of dials when people come onto the show, or they tell us about, oh, it costs so much to make a dial. Here's a watch costing probably about 1,500 quid, there or thereabouts. And it is phenomenal value. Again, Swiss made, great calibre inside, clear case back on the non-quartz variants. I think it's a win. I think it'll do phenomenally well. And it's a little bit like saying, oh, well, this brand has copied a watch because it's got this shape. Well, how many Royal Oak looking watches, how many Submariner looking watches have we seen out there? A shape is a shape, and these guys have done it incredibly well.
We have a watch here from another brand that we've talked about a few times recently. It seems to be coming back on the radar. Maybe that to do with the world being a slightly challenging place at the moment and folk looking for as much value in watches as they can. And there's a brand that we're about to talk about that definitely delivers that being Mido, one of the brands that sits at the entry level of the Swatch Group offerings. They have a Commander Gradient Catrine's Special Edition. Now there's another mouthful of a name. The watch industry loves this. It is a watch that's very much dedicated to the Dia de Muertes, and if you know what that is, it's all about skulls and it's about Mexico basically. That is me desecrating the history of that whole festival in Mexico in about 10 words. Anyway, this watch was originally created exclusively for the Mexican market, and Well, they've decided because it's so popular, this is now the 6th outing of a special edition year on year, that they would make it a little bit more available, albeit still in limited quantities, but it's now going to have a worldwide release.
Well, the reason Dave's talking about this is we've been incorporating a couple of Halloween watches across the month, because the stupid thing is people do roundups at Halloween of Halloween watches, but surely the idea would be if you want a watch for Halloween because you're like that, you'd want it beforehand, you'd want it delivered. So we're trying to get ahead of the game a little bit here.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about colours. Sky blue, violet, turquoise, orange, navy, lime green, fuchsia, white, and light green. No, that's not the dial choices, that is the dial. All of those colours feature at somewhere or at some point on the dial. So it's fair to say it's definitely not for the shy and retiring out there. As you would expect, it is a Swatch Group watch. It's got the Caliber 80, another name for a watch that's based on the ETA C07.611, which features in, well, pretty much every brand out there under that umbrella. Let me guess if you can guess the specs. 80 hours of power reserve, there's a surprise. Nivercron balance spring for anti-magnetic properties. Swatch Group, there's a surprise. But it's a great movement for the money. High specs, does well. Pretty much day-to-day bomb-proof as well. Watch, 40mm stainless steel case. You get 2 straps with it. You get black leather with blue stitching and you get an orange rubber strap in there as well. And price point-wise, 1,390 of your US dollars, which is going to put it in and around the 1,000 British pounds mark. If this is your vibe, and I can think of one very specific person who is attached to a specific person I'm talking to right now, who's probably going to be jumping up and down saying, Ricky, buy me this watch.
She will be interested in this because the dial is a sugar or a candy skull, they call it, from the Festival of the Dead, but it looks almost neon. It almost looks like something that would just glow in the dark. It would captivate you as you went into a nightclub and they had the ultraviolet bars running. But this is really, really good. Mido, they're doing great things. We don't hear enough about them. I don't think they have a big presence here in the UK. I know that Certina, also part of Swatch Group, they have been making inroads. They have got a bit of a dealer network going on. And we did review a couple of their watches a few months back there. But this is great price point. And again, if you want it, you can find it. You can find it Googling it. You know, there are shops out there, there are online stores that do sell this because I did research it, perhaps because somebody might want to buy one in the near future or have someone buy it for her.
It appears a brand we have talked about before is not having a great time of it. The Fossil Group have got a few financial related headaches, I think is possibly the polite way to describe it.
They do. And this was emailed to us. You guys out there are fantastic. We got this sent by 2 folks almost the moment that it appeared. And not everybody sends us an email to say that there's an article about a watch brand or a company or whatever it is. No. It's very select information we get sent to us. So thank you very much for that, the folks that sent it across. And this is given information about the fact that Fossil Group are not doing as well as they have been. They've been suffering at the hands of the watch industry, slowing down a little bit. And the segmentation that they deal in predominantly, which is the lower end, perhaps entry level, or the baby collabs, the Disney, the Star Wars, things like that, it's not been as great as it has been. And they have done some jiggery pokery to avoid hitting Chapter 11 over in the States. And to do that, they seem to have opened a brand or a subsidiary here in the UK to instantly put stuff into that. I don't want to say decks, I don't want sued, I don't know how it all works. Allegedly, but they've done something a little bit tricky. Now, Dave, you're extremely tricky, so tell us what they've done.
Yes, indeed. Well, Fossil, a US-based Swiss watch brand, have filed for bankruptcy, and this does happen regularly. Businesses get themselves into trouble. In the US, usually they go for Chapter 11, which gives them a little bit of a degree of protection to try and, well, have a bit of jiggery-pokery with their books and figures to get themselves back in a more healthy position. But unusually, they've managed to do it in England. Now, they've got some pretty big debts, 150 million US dollars in unsecured notes, and they all become due in November. That's not a good place to be as well. This is because their sales have slumped by around 2/3 over the last 10 years. So normally what would happen is they would file under Chapter 11. Now, that would quite often mean they would have to delist themselves from the stock exchange. They are listed on the Nasdaq. But because they're under English law, they can kind of jiggy their way around that as well. It appears the case is being allowed to progress in London because they have created an indirect subsidiary in, of all places, The City of Dreams, Milton Keynes. That is some place to set up a watch brand, I tell you that much anyway. What they're trying to do though, of course, is instead of going under Chapter 11, is get themselves under Chapter 15 of US bankruptcy law, which is the chapter that covers foreign insolvencies, whereas Chapter 11 is for brands within the USA. The whole purpose of this, to shield their shareholders. They're trying to save the bacon of their shareholders, probably because if they don't, they are, well, probably in even more trouble than they are now as well. The reason for this is that since 2020, the UK law changed and it allows UK companies to kind of pick and choose which areas of their capital structure they want to have some repairs done to as well. The challenge is going to be whether the English courts actually believe that this is all legitimate. If they are, what it might mean is they'll be able to flip their debt out without zeroing out their shareholders. It has got a little precedent. Virgin Atlantic did pull something similar just in 2020 when the law changed as well. They filed for bankruptcy in London, then they moved the case to New York. That kind of helped their co-owners, Delta Airlines and Richard Branson, kind of wiggle their way out of even more serious trouble as well. And unlike in the US, where around 75% have to, by value, say they want to do it, it doesn't really work that way under English laws as well. So there is absolutely a lot of smoke mirrors, companies, shell companies, and all sorts of other interesting things going on here. But we're all going to find out what happens on November the 10th because they're in their sanctions hearing in the High Court. So let's see what happens. Well, let's be honest, let's hope that Fossil managed to find a suitable way out of it because there's lots of people work there. They are responsible for some pretty cool brands, and we've talked about many of the brands that they've had under their umbrella over the years as well. And it's never good to see a company going on their downers. So fingers crossed it all works out, but it shows you the world of big business is maybe not always as clear and transparent as one would like it to be.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame to see those guys fail because they make really cool watches. I have spent my own hard-earned cash many times walking past their factory outlet store or even now out and about in different stores, different shops across the world. Their R2-D2 watch is one of my favourite ones for wearing at Comic-Con. They have got tons of other stuff. They did collaborations with the likes of Harry Potter, big sellers there. And they just do great things. They put a lot of effort and thought into things like the guys at Spinnaker. More recently, we've been involved with Zodiac. We've had many of their releases through to review, to check out. But things happen slow. Things happen quiet. I remember there was a deluge of new watches coming in. There was the white ceramic cased ones. There was a Worn and Wound collaboration that we got hold of and took to laser tag so we could play laser tag games with it. And then things went a little bit quiet. And it has been quiet for a couple of years. Even behind the scenes, when we've been emailing them, they've not been as fast to respond and they've needed a little bit of a nudge. So really hope things come together for them, because I even heard last year or earlier this year that their movement manufacturer that they had great plans with, STP, they are no longer. So yeah, really hope they bring it back from the brink. But somebody that's taken things forward from an ancient company that's still around, doing great things, 150 years young. Well, he used to work at AP, now he's doing his own thing, and this is pretty incredible looking.
Well, yes, what we've got here is one of the previous Audemars Piguet product leaders. He has now unveiled his own independent watch company. The person we're talking about is a Michael Friedman, and his brand is Pattern Recognition, the watch being the B-Theory Astronomical Tourbillon watch. Now, you'll probably know Benny Amos, who was the boss, the CEO. He left a couple of years ago, and he's also doing his own thing, part of which involves watches as well. But whilst he was at AP, he was always the first to credit what he regarded as his right-hand man, that being Michael, for much of the company's success. He was the head of complications for AP as well. It's a bit like Apple whenever they launched a new product. You would have the big man on the stage going hyper-energetic with a sales pitch, and then he would hand over to someone to explain kind of how it worked. Very much like what you see when you get a new iPhone launch with Apple, etc., etc.
So is this a little bit like the Johnny Ive for AP?
I think that would be pretty much correct, yes. He's the guy that actually knew what he was talking about, unlike the two of us. But both of them left AP almost simultaneously, and then kind of went dark for broadly 2 years. I'm going to guess bits of paper may or may not have been signed, and that's why the 2 years passed. But anyway, they've been plotting and they've come up with their next career moves. Of course, Benny Amos, he has started the Honourable Merchants Group, a kind of cross-industry incubator type business. They've got watches, electric bikes, jewellery, fashion and all sorts of other things going on as well. But Michael Friedman, 30 years of experience, he's launched a watch company and we get a first glimpse of what this watch is going to be. It will not go on sale until 2026, but we've got very much a tip of the hat nod to curved wrist watches of the 20s. Things like the Cartier Tank Sentry and the Movado Polyplan. But this is a curved astronomical tourbillon watch in a curved titanium case. It's 52 by 32, so it's relatively slim, but it's definitely long. It kind of looks like a cuff on your wrist. Only 9.9 millimeters tall, so definitely leaning more towards that cuff or bangle type wearability of it as well. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to be 150,000 Swiss francs on a bracelet or 120,000 Swiss francs on a strap. It's very cool in terms of some great high-end artisanal watchmaking going on here. I just can't get away from the fact that it looks a little bit like that watch wristband thing that one of those pop stars did about 10 years ago that was like a big black cuff that you wore around your wrist that pretended it was a phone. It was actually a phone. It just didn't work very well. Definitely not my aesthetic, this, but, well, you have to say, well done. Curved tourbillons are not the easiest things in the world to make.
Love the look of this. I don't care what Dave says. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm going to ignore everything that he has uttered for the last couple of minutes that were negative. Love this. It's very futuristic. It's like a very thin gauntlet bracelet, but then it has got all the mechanisms, all the movements, all the parts that you'd like to see in a watch just sitting there. Perhaps my only drawback to this one for the male wrist, which I own two of, would be it's a little bit slender. But we'll just have to see how things come round. I was watching some videos about what was happening in the 90s, the 2000s, doing a little bit of nostalgia. And a lot of folks had watches that were really quite big, but they were quite small at the same time. They were wearing, I think it's called a bund strap, which is almost like this cloth or leather gauntlet thing with the watch in the centre that was a little bit slimmer. So maybe they could do something with that if they're going to retain the size of it.
So you're saying it was quite big, but quite small at the same time. So do you mean it's a big watch and it was just far away?
No Dougal, not this time. But we're going to talk about another fantastic brand that we might be catching up with over in Dubai shortly. That was our first introduction to them. That was the first time we got to speak to Felix, the guy at the helm of Urwerk. And they have been releasing watch after watch. We do catch up with them when we can, but they've got something out now that is completely different from the norm. And when I say the norm, I mean what they usually do, which is extravagant space-like pieces. You've got MBNF that are the juxtaposition of perhaps H.G. Wells if it was modernised, you know, the Time Machine, things like that, War of the Worlds. Urwerk are very much the Stargate SG-1 of the realm. And they've done something that is a bit more, I don't even know how to describe it, a bit more normal.
This is the Urwerk UR10 Spacemeter watch, and it's part of their special projects family. But as Ricky mentioned, and I totally agree with him on this, it's definitely at the more conventional end of the spectrum of what Urwerk are known for doing. The case is titanium and steel mixed together. The upper shell is in titanium, sitting on a lower shell in steel, but it's not got a kind of case band on it. They almost interlock at the sides. Size-wise, 45.4 by 7.13 millimeters. So not huge, bigger than a lot of day-to-day watches, but not huge for our work standards, and definitely on the slim end of the spectrum there as well. It looks to me to be quite a complex finishing. I'm looking forward to maybe getting a little one-on-one with this over in Dubai. And to finish it off, you've got domed sapphire crystals both on the top and the bottom. 30 metres of water resistance, not a lot, don't go swimming in it as well. But on the dial, you've got 3 sub-dials, and they don't show things you would expect. No minutes, no seconds, no hours on there. What you've got is cosmic distances.
Well, let me jump in because Dave's going to run like a train and not the kind of train you get in prison. Yeah, this watch here, I'm going to ask him a very, very quick question. Look at the side profile of the case. What does that remind you of?
Yeah, I'm thinking, but I can't exactly piece it. But it's got this kind of line with this little mouth thing on it. It's like an interlocking jigsaw piece, but you're about to say something much more controversial.
A Conrod.
Yeah, actually, now you say it, it's not so controversial. A Conrod definitely looks like that kind of vibe going on there as well.
Right, you can carry on with your diatribe.
Thank you very much. Cosmic distances. One of them, the one at 2 o'clock, that being the subcounter, is the Earth subcounter, and that logs every 10 kilometres of the planet's daily spin. Then you've got the sun counter at 4 o'clock. That measures blocks of our orbital path in 1,000 kilometre steps. Then you've got, at 9 o'clock, the orbit display. That brings both together, combining the rotation and the revolution on twin scales. There's two variants. There's a black dialed version or a grey dialed version. And you've got syringe style hands on there. You've got the UR 10.01 self-winding mechanism. That has been developed in conjunction with Vaucher Manufacture. Runs at 4 Hz, 43 hours of power reserve. There's going to be 25 of each colourway, black and grey. Very similar, but different. Sandblasted titanium bracelet comes in at 70,000 Swiss francs. Punchy money, but a cool twist on what you would expect from someone like Urwerk. Not the mainstream, but definitely very usable and cool at the same time.
Well, staying with a little bit of a space theme, the folks at Ciga Design, featured many times in the show before, they've done amazing things like the Blue Planet, they've done the Gilding Edition that I own, I think Dave owns the original. They also did, there was this tonneau-shaped case one that came out, it was grey, it looked a little bit titanium, but it wasn't. It was stainless steel with a rough finishing on it. That was launched earlier this year, I think it was called the Hunter, perhaps the X series, but they're back, they're doing more cool things, again at a very attainable price point, moving from the lofty goals of Urwerk, perhaps slightly downscale when it comes to price, although the punch on the wrist is just as good.
Ciga Design, a brand from China who came to the fore by winning a GPHG award a little bit out the blue. I still have that watch. It's a great watch. That, of course, is the one with the globe that is a circumferential, there's a word for you, spinning...
Circumcision?
No, not circumcision, Ricky. Circumferential, that goes round with the globe on it. But they also, a few years ago, shocked everyone by bringing out a central tourbillon, something that people were not expecting. And they definitely were not expecting the price of it either, being in the couple of $1,000 US category. But for 2025, they've returned with a new updated Everest Summit Central Tourbillon. Really, it's about refinement in this watch. They haven't changed a huge amount, but it's a 45mm grade 5 titanium case, coming in at around 11.5mm in thickness. You've got a cleaner appearance. They've tidied up the dial. They've removed some text. You've also got the classic ice axe-shaped hands on there. They've been evolved. They're now open-worked, and they've put a little dot of superluminova in there, really to help out with the readability and legibility at night. What they've also done, unlike previous models, the bracelet no longer interlocks into the bottom of that round case. They've got more traditional lugs on there as well. The caliber is the CD05. That's their in-house developed tourbillon movement with a central tourbillon, of course. 4 mainsprings in there, gives you a decent 120-hour power reserve. The dial's very cool. It's made from fragments of rock that were collected at the foothills of Mount Everest by the brand themselves. Price point, well, it's a Chinese tourbillon, but it's an extremely attractive price, $2,700 US. It is definitely a acquired taste in terms of a look. Central tourbillons are not for everybody aesthetically, but if it's your vibe and if you like the brand, this could be your way into the world of tourbillons.
Well, it's that part of the show that we always forget to do early on, and we'll leave it to the mid to the end point, and that is the wrist check. And Dave likes to come seconds. I'm going to tell you what I've got on the wrist today. And it's a watch that came in for review after we featured the producer, the guy that designed it, the guy at the helm of the company that actually produces the watch itself. And it's the new loveliness from Swan and Edgar. So this is a watch that we did feature, but we didn't feature because we didn't have it to wear. And it finally arrived at Scottish Watches Towers. This is a brand that's been around for a while, predominantly known for making entry-level watches. We were talking about Fossil earlier on. Think that style, think that kind of cost. But they wanted to improve things. They wanted to move a little bit more upmarket, and they certainly have done. This is the Horizon. The model that you will see if you're watching YouTube at the moment is called the Mineral Musso, and it is under £800 UK. And for that, you're getting a lot on the dial, you're getting a lot under the dial, and you're getting a lot under the sapphire. This is phenomenal looking. For that price point, again, you've got to bear that in mind the way that we talk about watches. There are significant differences between a Gribble Forze and a Swatch watch, and you just have to pay attention. This has got all kinds of cool stuff going on. You've got a lot of design inspiration taken from England, around about the place where the brand is from. If you want to hear more about the origin story, well, you can go back in time. The links will be in the show notes to a previous episode where we did have the founder on explaining all about how he gave up his job in the finance industry to move into watchmaking. That is a pretty big leap of faith, and well, we wish him all the best, but he seems to be doing rather well. The watch on the wrist here has got that white dial, it's got a lovely sword handset, and quite a deeply recessed date aperture at 3 o'clock position, which has got a colour match date disc, which I love. But the big point, the big talking point about the watch is the 12. On there, you've got the numerals 1, 2, as you would expect, but underneath you've got what almost looks like a Dairy cheese triangle, but it's not. It's to commemorate something very important and very special. You'll have to look in the show notes for details on that. But this is one of 2 watches. This is obviously what I'm wearing just now because, well, I decided to go for a white dial. I don't have many, if any, white dial watches, and I thought, yeah, this one can go on the wrist as much as they actually sent us 2 of them. So if I quickly switch across and grab the second one, well, the second one's probably the one I would buy myself, because it has got a fantastic Fume style dial. Again, keeping all the exact same dimensions and construction, even that gold 12, I don't know what you would call that, it's a sort of the bite out of a pie chart if you were looking at Pac-Man himself. Dave will explain more about it in a second because he is the lyrical genius on the show, but I'm just in love with this dial. It is fantastic. Even with the studio lights here, although they're catching and reflecting here, there and everywhere, there's a good degree of AR coating, so you can see through onto that dial. Dave, you've had a look at this one in real life, I believe. What are your thoughts on it?
Do you know, I think this one, specifically the blue Fume dial, is absolutely glorious looking. I think if I was to describe it, a lot of folk would maybe go, not convinced about that, but once you see it, it really does work. That triangle could in many ways be a little harsh, but it really kind of keys into the dial. And with that date window being set just slightly inboard of the edge of the dial, I think it helps just keep a little bit of, well, something about the dial that shouldn't be there, but just kind of works. You know, date windows that are out of place don't always work, in my opinion, but in this watch, it definitely does the job. You've got an amazing package of watch here for, as you mentioned, around about the £800 mark. So if you're after something that definitely gives off vibes of the high-end independence, it's definitely got a wee bit of a vibe of Anardane, got a wee bit of vibe of Mozart, got a wee bit of vibe of many things in there that are at very different price points. So if that's something you're after and you want a feel and vibe of that look and kind of, well, I guess, classical watchmaking, clean dial aesthetic, this could be for you. The wrist check I'm about to do also falls firmly into the same price category.
Right, Dave, tell us what you've got on the wrist then.
Well, what have I got on the wrist? Well, I don't actually have it on the wrist, a bit like you. It's kind of sitting beside me. This is a brand I came across when I was over at Germany at the Watch Time show in Dusseldorf. And a gentleman came up and said, I listened to the podcast and I really enjoy it. Bet you didn't think many Germans listened to the podcast. And I said, well, thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying it. Like I say to many people, there's victims everywhere for both myself and Ricky to gibber in their ears. And he said, oh, do you want to have a look at my little watch brand that I've started and see what I'm doing? I've said, absolutely. Thinking, well, no idea what I'm about to see, but I'm off to look at it anyway. The name couldn't be more German. The brand is called Heinrich Watches, and the gentleman's name is Wolfgang Heinrich. And off I went to have a look at his watches. He has everything from around 1,000 to around 1,200 euros. But the one that particularly caught my eye was a model called the Radiance. Again, more falling into the dress style watches. Come and have a look at what I'm doing. And I thought, okay, I wonder what it is. And he has a brand of watches that are producing pieces from around 1,000 to around 1,200 euro mark. Now, that brings them in at around about the £900 mark. Here is the Radiance, one of their latest offerings. This one is the one that really caught my eye in this kind of multi-stage green. It is a multi-stage dial in terms of the centre area is slightly lower than the ring with these applied indices on there. You've got the loomed hands and the kind of sword setup. You've got a running sub-seconds in there as well. Extremely thin at only around 8mm. Lovely curve on the case. And we have an elaborate grade Handwine ETA 7001 caliber in there with everything going on. It comes on this bracelet. It's a very nice kind of beads of rice multi-link bracelet. It also features quick release end links, and they're solid, case fitted solid end links, which are quick release, which means that when it's on the bracelet, you've got that beautiful fit and finish, similar to the strap that Ricky has on that Swan and Edgar, but you also have the option to have these leather straps. In the case of this one, we have it in the colour-coded green. I just thought for 860 of our British pounds, this is a fabulous looking watch.
And now that you're concentrating on actually revolving the watch in front of me, and you've got some pretty decent lights in your little studio there, and the thing is, if it looks good under studio lights, it's going to look really good under natural light. That is the way these things work. Looks good in a jeweller's, go outside, looks better when the sun hits it. This is a fantastic looking watch. I'm getting, I'd call it the Green Hornet. That's what's hitting me if it wanted to have a cool nickname. You've got this almost saw arrangement. Think of the old Top Gear logo with that saw, circular saw that you would put a body through if you were in the Saw movies. It's got 1970s style index markers with the striations through them, almost like a general's cuff. Then down at the 6 o'clock position, you've got that subdial for the running seconds. That has got an even miniature subdial within in a silver coloration. This is just perfect. I love this. I love people that play around with crazy ideas, and especially for a fledgling brand like this, who I've never heard of in my life before. I'm going to go and have a look at them afterwards. Yeah, to really dare to be different, to do something like this, and you can match it with a kind of pea green, olive green strap, or moving across, you've got a shark mesh style bracelet, a bit like a doxa of the past.
So another little point here is you'll notice it's a thin bracelet, but there are screw links in there as well, as you can hopefully just see. And if you're on YouTube watching this, you'll definitely be able to see it. Otherwise, check out the show notes to see some of these little pictures. It's absolutely fabulous. You've got this green colourway. You've also got a really punchy kind of orange colour. A watch colour that's often not used but really works. He's got a kind of brown, I think he calls it, is it tobacco I think he calls it? I'm not sure, but it's a deep kind of brown colourway as well. Much more towards brown than say something like a burgundy. There's silver as well. There's a kind of multitude of different colours from super bright and interesting through to more conservative. Very slim, amazing spec watch for the money. They are made in Germany, so of course he gets the calibers from Switzerland. He gets some of the case parts from other bits of the world, but he is also a watchmaker, and the watches are all fully assembled and put together in Germany. So for that money, I really don't think you've got anything to complain about. The only thing you can be complaining about, and this is allowed, is if it's not your aesthetic. Outside that, there's nothing to complain about in this watch. And he is an avid listener of the podcast. He came over more to tell us he enjoyed the podcast, which makes it all the nicer. It wasn't a shove a watch in my hand, what do you think of this? It was only after we'd had a chat, he asked, would you like to have a look at what I'm doing? And I was very impressed. He's also got some very cool dive watches out there as well. Maybe in the future. He also intimated he might like to come on and tell the story because it's quite interesting, so we'll see what happens in the future.
Astute listeners out there, you may be thinking, Dave's been hoodwinked. Somebody has come up and fluffed him, and he is all happy and jolly and is going to talk about a watch for free marketing on the podcast. Not really the case. Dave sees many watches. He builds many watches with a Raj. He is not somebody that the wool can be pulled over his eyes and ears very quickly. No. So this must really be good in the hand, as much as we're seeing it under great magnification here on the show through his camera system. But we should probably finish up by telling you what we've been up to. I am getting prepped and planned to go to Bristol to check things out, as Dave mentioned earlier. So I'll be able to report back on what's been happening there. Then it's the larger prep work for Dubai Watch Week. If you're coming along, members of the public are more than welcome. Then all the masterclasses, the creative hubs, all the technology, all the seminars, the talks and the meetings, they've now been pushed through on the website. So download the app or go to the website, log in and book. Again, free of charge to enter, free of charge to attend these courses. Apart from that, the only other thing to mention is I watched one movie that stood out this last week, and it's called It's What's Inside. Don't want to give the game away, because that's not what we do, we don't spoil things, but it's a different take on a trope that's been done a few times in the past. Think of Big or vice versa, but with an adult horror theme, and lots of the implications that can happen if things go awry. So yes, it's about switching bodies and minds, but it's actually very well executed, and you really have to be on your game to follow along at home. One I recommend, check it out Netflix at the moment. And the other thing that has really got me, it has got me completely, is AI covers, AI remixes and AI music. This is something that we've heard about, we've seen perhaps over the past couple of years, but a little bit like those AI trailers, the Pano 70s style, the Pano 50s style that we talked about with George Bamford, where 2 years ago, it was a bit of a curiosity. It looked like a fever dream. then it got better, then it got better, and now it's really good. Well, AI cover music is insanely good. Insanely good. I will actually feature some music at the end of the show instead of the usual show outro music. A couple of clips of different things, because you've got everything from Michael Jackson, Smooth Criminal, in a reggae style from Jamaica. You've got glam rock versions of other tunes like Technotronic, Pump Up the Jam. You've even got NWA, which is now called Fellas with Attitude, doing a rock version of some of their standout hits. This is absolutely incredible. Dave, I sent you a couple of links. Did you have a chance to listen?
I did indeed. And yeah, the world's a scary place now. If you're a musician, I wouldn't want to be a musician. Actually, I do want you to be musicians. I want you to do your own thing and do original content. But the scary thing is, some of this stuff is just, you wouldn't actually believe it wasn't real. That's the scariest part about it. And there's a lot of AI stuff, like I see a lot of cats with bazookas at the moment and cats with, anti-tank weapons. It's pretty obvious it's not real. But in the case of these ones, it's so finessed and so good. If you remove the video, which maybe gives it a degree of unbelievability, and just listen to it though, you would have no idea that this was synthetic. So yeah, the scary world awaits us. But hey, technology is amazing when applied judiciously, would be my take on it. But yeah, amazing to see it, listen to it, give us your thoughts. I don't know what else to say about it. I kind of like it, but don't like it at the same time. I love it, but hate it simultaneously. Music should be about originality, and even someone covering a music piece, but interpreting it in their own way. That I can absolutely live with. Yeah, this, scary business, scary business.
Very scary, as Dave says, but the good thing is you need the original content creators to make the stuff, the musicians, the artists, the singers or performers. It's been a downward spiral since Cher and Believe in 1998, when they pushed up the auto-tune thing to start to warble the audio. But, we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that people keep playing those instruments and strumming away. Dave likes to... What was your favourite instrument? Is it the pink oboe?
I thought you were about to say Dave likes strumming away, and I mean, I was going to say, but I have got VPN, so it's perfectly legal these days. What's happened with me? Well, as you know, I was in New York, but then past weekend I was over in Germany at Dusseldorf. I'm back for one day only in Scotland to record this podcast so that you all get good sound quality and something that you can watch on Saturday. Outside of that, head off to London, then back from London again for one day only before I then head off to Singapore. So yes, I'm kind of travelling an awful lot over the next weeks and months. I will finally finish after I get back from Dubai, and then it will be not so long to Christmas, although I'll probably go to Switzerland before then as well. Anyway, that's mostly what I've been up to. Nothing exciting other than finding a cool new watch brand. And as Ricky said, it's not about shilling it. It's just nice when you find something weird and wonderful and different, someone doing it properly. And frankly, this is a watch done properly for an amazing price.
And for any watchmakers, brands out there that are going to try and hoodwink Dave with a similar tactic, the next thing is, if you come up and say, "Oh, listen to the show, can you have a look at my new watch?" We're going to ask you questions from the previous 500 to 700 episodes, so you better have your answers ready. But that is us at the end of a show. Go through the back catalogue, check out what we've been up to recently. In our most recent past, we've had Ken Kessler, that automotive clock, watch, hi-fi guru. I think I got all that right. Plus he writes books. He's created a book that is out just now. I fully recommend you go and listen to that episode and you check out the book, because it is immensely superior to pretty much every other book I have seen this year. Again, not paid shills. There was no money exchanging hands. I just think it was fantastic. Had to drag him on the show to talk about Compendium 1 from Christopher Ward, although it features hardly any Christopher Wards. Apart from that, who have we got else? We've got the guys from Studio Underdog and Fears collaborating. They came on to do a collab episode talking about what they released over in New York, and also what they released a week later so that everybody across the world could get their grubby mitts on it. We've had Jem from Elliot Brown on to give us a bit of an update what they've been doing, and there was some watches that you could get a hold of at a very inexpensive price point, so have a listen to that. And then we had Simon from Montblanc stroke Minerva for episode 1 of a running series that will hopefully be slightly better. Well, it was better than the Phantom Menace, so I can't wait for episode 2, which we just recorded, to go out, where we go through what we did over in Switzerland with him and the team there. phenomenal people. Great to have him on the show. And me and Dave actually had some things to add to the conversation because we were there, we got to see things. Anything else before we let people get on their merry way?
Nope, just remember, don't DM us on Instagram. We won't read it, we won't see it, we get covered in junk. What you need to do is you need to send us an email to info@scottishwatches.co.uk. If it's interesting and relevant, we may at some point read it out, probably months after it was actually relevant, but you were relevant in sending the email. Outside that, you can check us out every week. Every Monday, every Thursday, there's an episode. Usually one of the two of us talking nonsense, quite often ends up on YouTube on a Saturday, and the other episode is something usually a bit more in-depth and a bit more serious. Interviews, they can be funny, talking to people, talking to personalities from throughout the watch industry. So, other than that, Ricky, I think it's time to go for another episode.
It is indeed. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, we'll catch you again soon.